Welcome back to the show. Now, gourd artist Denise Meyers always wants to challenge the viewer's expectations. And with her wildlife gemstone gourds, she accomplishes just that. These are really quite unbelievable.
A lot of people still think of gourds as being a craft item, and so I like to challenge their expectations.
For artist Denise Meyers, creating distinctive art from natural forms has become her greatest passion. Yet she found it almost by accident.
I went to work in a bookstore in West Hollywood, and there was an artist selling gourds as a gift item. They were very small. I'd never seen one before.
Denise saw something more than another artist's work. She saw a new opportunity.
I love the idea of it. Gourds are very thick. They can be carved into, cut into, carved away from. And because I've had a lifelong love of animals, it seemed like the perfect combination.
It's her unique subject matter, along with an attention to the details, that makes her wildlife gourds something special.
People aren't used to seeing this level of work being done on a gourd, and not the detail, particularly with the wildlife. They look so lifelike that people have very strong reactions to them.
Collecting the gourds is the first step in creating these pieces.
Once I go to the gourd farm and I get the gourd, I wash it in the sink, and then I cut the top off and clean out the insides with a wire brush on a drill. Then I start the process of drawing the design out freehand with a pencil, and I also use a flexible tape measure and a 6-inch metal ruler, and that allows me to create compartments if I need to, or to make sure that the design is exactly 10 inches around, for example.
For her wildlife subjects, Denise uses photographs which she takes herself.
I started photographing a couple of years ago, and I find that it, more than anything, creates what I guess I would call a personal relationship with the animals that I photograph. I feel like there's a story that's involved.
With the initial sketch in place, Denise uses wood-burning tools to bring her wildlife design to life.
Once that's done, I use a hand-held rotary tool to carve away bits of the gourd.
By removing tiny layers along the surface, Denise adds depth to her design. Once the carving is complete, it's time for a surprise. Denise uses gemstones in a unique way that also adds a whole other dimension to her wildlife gourds. Using malachite for the gemstones, the first thing Denise must do is reduce their size. For this, she uses a hammer to crush them into smaller pieces.
And I actually do use some of my own gemstone. I grind it up from pieces that a Navajo silversmith gave me, and I break it up with a hammer and run it through a coffee grinder and then a flour sifter.
Once the gemstones have been broken down to the proper consistency, epoxy is added. This creates a soft gemstone paste that Denise applies directly to the gourd with a toothpick.
But the reason I like to use the crushed gemstone is I can create any shape I want. I'm not confined to a particular cut of a stone. I can create a cocopelli or a lizard or a triangle. The sky's the limit in terms of what I can do with it.
Then it's time to add even more color.
I use leather dyes, which are liquid, so they do absorb rapidly into the gourd. Then I use acrylics to paint with. I don't use oils because they take too long to dry. And then the final step is I use a satin sealer that actually protects the paint from chipping, and it also can protect the paint from fading. It can take anywhere from an hour and a half to do an ornament to 500 hours or more to do a single gourd, because they're all one of a kind, so it's not like you're able to create a mold or cast them or recreate them or reproduce them in any fashion.
It may take a lot of time, but Denise doesn't mind. Like any artist, the payoff comes when those who admire her pieces see things in a whole new way.
Last year, I donated a gourd to a festival, and the woman who won it probably gets my vote for the most excited reaction. She was crying and breathing hard and talking fast and jumping. I mean, I felt like a rock star. I want them to come away with an appreciation of gourds as a fine art and what can be done with something that people generally do think of as a craft.
Wow. But as gorgeous as those pictures are, they do not do justice. I mean, I have this one sitting right in front of me, and there's even texture because of the way that she cuts in not only just paints, and then of course you can see the gemstones in there, and the depths to her carving. They're unbelievable. They really are. Wow. Now, Denise's gourds range in price from $250 to $20,000, and they can be found in galleries from Florida to California, as well as on the internet.
This is Raja, my Pharaoh hound puppy. That's Pharaoh hound, like the pharaohs of Egypt. Most people think I'm saying feral. So he's an Egyptian hunting dog. They are a really fascinating breed, quite unusual, and they're definitely not a dog for everyone. They're extremely intelligent, very curious, exceptionally stubborn. They seem to think that come is an option and not a command. So he's quite a handful, but he's also really wonderful for me because I am an artist and I do work at home. So we get to spend a lot of time together. Because he's so intelligent, he tends to entertain himself pretty well. Also, as you can see, the cat, whose name is Bagheera, tends to entertain herself with him. Come here, you. Come here, sweetie. I do really enjoy the breed, but like I said, they're not for everyone. It took me close to almost 6 months to get him socialized to the extent that he would let anyone besides me come near him. They're very suspicious. They hate closed spaces, but they're also very sweet. He's also a wonderful companion when he's not being beaten up by the cat. You know, the funny thing about watching the two of them play together is that he always looks like he's about to kill her. He's showing his teeth, and she's got her claws sunk into his face. But he's actually very, very gentle with her. A Pharaoh hound is similar to a sight hound, so they chase by sight. And I think what happens with the two of them is that he chases her around until he gets her in a position where they can just really play with one another, because he doesn't hurt her. She's pretty clear about letting him know who's the boss, and the answer to that question would obviously be her and not him. You know, Kate, I'm really glad that some of my artwork could be included in this interview today, because it's really, they're pieces that really mean a lot to me. As a matter of fact, this particular piece is based on tigers that I met at a wildlife sanctuary in Florida. As a matter of fact, these are the same two tiger cubs, or the same tiger cub, I'm not sure how to say that. He was an 8-month-old Bengal and Siberian mix named Bo, and this is the same cub, but I've decided to do one cub as a white cub and one cub as the orange cub. Just to give you a little bit of information about how I do this particular work, I do a lot of gemstone inlay. This is lapis, turquoise, malachite, and these tigers are coral and mother of pearl. And then I also use yellow shell and sugilite. What I do with these pieces, just to give you a little bit of information on how much work goes into them, it takes about 500 hours to do a single piece. I carve them, paint them, do gemstone inlay, and they're painted with acrylics because acrylics actually dry faster than oils. But it can take up to 500 hours or more to do a single piece. I might have already said that. They sell for about $10,000, some of these pieces, although they don't all cost that much. They can start at $900 and go up to $10,000 or more. In fact, I'm working on a piece right now that will be probably about $20,000. But it's interesting. I started this when I was working in the film business. I went to work at the Bodhi Tree bookstore part-time because I hated the film business. So I started working at the Bodhi Tree, and there was a woman who was selling very small gourds as a gift item. And she offered a class, and I took the class, and everything else I taught myself because no one else is doing work quite to this level with gourds that I have been doing. So I had to learn about wood-burning tools and paints and gemstone inlay, Dremel tools, sanders, air compressors. When I was having work done on my house recently, whenever the workmen would come in and say that they didn't have the right kind of saw or they didn't have the right kind of sandpaper, I just asked them what it is that they needed because they seemed to have everything. You asked me why I focus so much on animals. I'm going to back up a little bit and talk a little bit more about how I got so involved in some of the Native American themes. I've always been fascinated by the Native American themes, and I was looking through a book on Casas Grande pottery, and I found an example, a very rare example actually, of animals in pottery, and that's how some of the animal themes started to develop. I had been looking for something to distinguish the work, and since gourds can be up to 1.5 inches thick, I was able really to start experimenting more with carving and painting, doing more sculptural work with the wildlife pieces, and that's how I ended up getting quite so involved in doing some of the wildlife pieces. For example, doing the trout was really interesting to me. I love the colors and the textures, the structure, just the expression of the animals. I like to do a lot of big cats. This is an example of a piece that I'm working on right now. And this is actually kind of a wonderful opportunity for me to explain a little bit more of the process. I wash the gourds, which come directly from a farm in Southern California. They come with skin and a dirt on them, so I have to clean them off, and this is actually more of the natural finish of the gourd. I draw the designs on freehand with a pencil, and then I use a temperature-controlled wood-burning tool that goes from 900 to 2,000 degrees. It has a very fine knife blade, so it allows me to etch very fine detail in a lot of the wildlife pieces that I do. Once the whole piece is wood-burned, I use a Dremel to carve away, for example, in these sections here, I use a Dremel to carve away the top layer of skin. And that allows me to do several different things. I can just do dimension, or I can also do dimension with gemstone inlay. For example, this is yellow shell, coral, and malachite inlay. But then I've also done the cutaways with the paw prints and also just with some of the geometric designs. Once I'm done with the wood burning and the gemstone inlay, then I can begin painting. I use leather dyes as a lot of my background color, and then I use acrylics to actually paint the animals with. One of the reasons I use acrylics is they do dry quickly, but you can also develop a lot of bone structure and musculature with the acrylic paints so that you can actually get a lot of dimension in these pieces. I am frequently asked, is that hair, or where do you get the eyes? And this is all done with a wood burning tool and acrylic paints. Once they are all painted, for example with the tiger piece, then they are sprayed with an ultraviolet sealer to protect the finish and mounted either on a marble base or a wooden base, because I've had a lot of collectors ask how to display something like this since it's such an unusual piece. So I put a lot of thought in how to preserve them and how to display them. I am really pleased that my work can incorporate animals because I've spent most of my life around animals, and it's really special for me to be able to go into a zoo or to a wildlife sanctuary and photograph animals that I can incorporate into my work. And that's why I'm really looking forward to finding an opportunity that would allow me to donate either the proceeds or possibly even an example of some of my work back into the community again.
To see Denise's beautiful artwork for yourself, drop by the Canyon Collection Gallery in Palm Desert on El Paseo. Or for more information, call our Animal Chat referral number, 836-4544, 760 area code.
All right, would you pay $20,000 for a pumpkin? I guess a pumpkin is a gourd, right, Denise? If you did, people would think you're out of your gourd, maybe, but, you know, look at this. Some people are paying thousands of dollars for these gourds by artist Denise Meyers. She's here to show us her work and tell us where you can see it this weekend. And we're talking, when we say people, we mean some very prominent people in the United States of America have purchased your artwork.
Absolutely, not you, but other people.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, no, that's quite all right, and I understand that. Yeah, actually, my work has been in the collections of Colin Powell, which actually, this is a replica of the piece that was